Did having the kind of success that you experienced with with not your first album, but with '97's Monsoon and the single Sullivan, did that put any kind of undue pressures on you guys when you went back into the studio to create this last album, Attention Please?
When we did Monsoon, it was actually just a collection of songs that we already had released on independent releases. Mm-hmm. So really not really, because we didn't ever go into the studio to record Monsoon. It was just remixed. We got a guy named Nick Didia to remix the CD. We were very happy to see the Sullivan did so well over the country. It kept us on the road for 2 years. But we had so much material already that we were prepared to go into the studio.
You had new material already set up, like before Sullivan was such a hit, right?
Yeah. We between the years of '93 and '97, we released 4 independent CDs as an independent band. Mm-hmm. And in the 3 years that we had those available, we did, I think, as each of them came out, we did just under 12,000 copies. And record labels begin to look at you when they know that you're making money.
Right.
So Hollywood Records picked us up. Both teams kind of picked the best songs to go on the record. We released Monsoon, and because it was a self-produced record, I didn't feel any pressure going in with Roy Thomas Baker for our follow-up, Attention Please, at all, because I'd produced the first record, and he was a producer, and he's worked with so many amazing people, but it was really his talent that we were interested in, and having kind of a classic yet cutting-edge vibe to the project was very important to me.
And that was the first time you had worked with an outside producer,
correct? The first time I ever hired a producer.
Was it? What made you decide to go with him? What was it about his I guess resume that attracted you to you?
I think more than anything else, we were very impressed with some of the recent projects that he had done, as well as the numerous classics that you can mention. So, I don't know, to have to learn how to do a record, I guess, the right way with somebody, we wanted to go with somebody we knew, had had success with it before. And he seemed relatively easy to work with, and I think he was generally impressed with the band. So we got along great, and the timing worked out.
It ended up being what you guys expected it would be, that relationship with him in the studio?
I think our relationship with Roy Thomas Baker during the recording was one that was very constructive, much more constructive than I thought it would be, because musicians and producers have their things going on.
Sure.
I think it helped him that we had done our own projects, and I think he helped us make sure that we didn't forget about the musician part and worry too much about, other stuff going on.
Right.
So it really was a great combination, and to have Roy Thomas Baker and Nick Didia with our band in the middle mixing our record down at the old A&M studios was really quite a dream come true. It was great.
I'm sure. What did Roy bring to the project that wouldn't have otherwise been there if he wasn't there?
An English type.
A very strong accent. We are now very, very well aware of what goes on in Lake Havasu, Arizona during the winter season.
Not much.
The thing about being in the studio with Roy, that was pretty cool, was that it was for the very first time that the band was able to really concentrate and take the time to make a record, go through the pre-production, go through all the levels of what the recording actually needs to go through, rather than just jamming it through a weekend, which is what we usually did. So we took a lot of time. We were able to zone in on a lot of different specific things like drum sounds, and we spent a lot of time. We nurtured the sonics of what we wanted to get out of it. We knew that this guy has made so many records that his direction has got to be, pretty substantial. So it was a very educational experience for sure. We were able to see a lot of the things that we would normally overlook because we're such a live touring band. We sometimes jam out our songs a little bit long, and K-Rock isn't whatever. According to K-Rock's not going to play a 9-minute long single. Or whatever.
Right.
So we were kind of honed in on a lot of those kinds of things, but.
So you mentioned that this album you had a lot more time. You had a lot more time to record Attention Please than you usually had in the past. Do you think that too much time working on an album can be a detriment to it?
Caroline Spine started from its inception as a live band. Mm-hmm. So when we started, we all sold everything we owned, down to our beds,
and girlfriends.
gave up our jobs, and picked out 6 states and toured them relentlessly for 3 years. So you could see Caroline Spine 1 week in each state for every 5 weeks. And it was really amazing. After about a year of doing that, we won Best Local Rock Band in like 4 different cities. And we're thinking, this is great, but we really wanted to go to more of kind of a national thing. So
We're not from here.
I
We're not local.
I think that the live vibe for us was the most important. We're just a live band that happened to get signed.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of really, we're going to continue touring and doing whatever. And for the people that get our records and really love it because they heard us on the radio, that's fantastic. And we're very appreciative of that. I think we like to concentrate on the people that come to see our band live, because long after all of you have forgotten about us, they're going to still come out and see us.
Right.
And we're going to end up in some little bar somewhere and, who knows?
Playing
the
for
Elks
beer.
Lodge.
Well,
Can I see Caroline Spine at the Holiday Inn?
Do you think your records capture the live energy that you guys actually are known for?
No way. I don't think that they do have the sonics are there on the new record especially, but it's hard to capture the live vibe of any band, and especially a band that tours all the time. We've played close to 1,300 shows in the career of our span, and we spent hours and hours on stage, where we've only spent so much time in the studio. You just tend to get better at a specific thing, and
Right.
being a live touring band is what we kind of pride ourselves on.
One of the key elements too, I think, to our live shows are that a lot of times when I was growing up, I would go see a live show and I would look at these guys that kind of wanted to be rock stars worse than I thought they were rock stars, and they'd stare at their sneakers and tell the audience to go do whatever with itself and stuff, and I really got kind of a weird vibe about that. With us, we were kind of determined to make sure that it was a show and it was entertaining. Not only that, because that would be a good medium to get the songwriting message across. And I think when everybody feels kind of like they're a part of one thing, it's not so much fans and the artist, it's we're all there for the same reason. Everybody's kind of acting friendly and we're moving forward with something.
Right.
I think that tends to be like the best live gig, when you show up not, being willing to kind of get into it with the band, because if you're not willing to get into it with us, you got to get the fuck out.
What's the point? Yeah,
Plus,
exactly.
we live in a van together, so when we're on the stage, it's like, man, look at all this room. Dear God,
You guys get
get out
to
of this
stretch
thing.
out
We
a
live
little bit.
together in this van, so it's like, man, stay on your side of the stage. Come on.
How when you are in the studio, how structured is your time in there? Is it like, do you go in there with a plan, or do you leave a lot of room for spontaneity?
I think the most planning comes when you decide to take time off of the road to do the studio thing. Usually that's pretty much as far as it goes. With Caroline Spine, I tend to write the songs on acoustic guitar, and I'll bring them to the band and play them just me singing on acoustic. And usually you can tell if a song is a good enough song if it can survive being very stripped down like that.
Right.
And so then if it kind of passes these guys' inspection, we put kind of a hard...
Put a stamp of approval.
put like a hard, twist to it. So you get quality songs with like a little bit more of an edge to it, because, I mean, we all like to party, but, there are certain issues that are nice to be addressed, and certain emotions you want to kind of tap into in this short experience that we're going to be able to share together,
Yeah.
I'm here tonight playing in LA for 45 minutes, and somebody shoves me in a car, and I'm on my way to Providence, Rhode Island tomorrow. Or actually tonight.
Tonight.
For tomorrow. And then I'm on my way to Vegas the day after that. So I don't get to share a lot with people. And so that's why the live show is very important to us, because we get to see what this is doing to all of our friends around the country, and now, thankfully, around the world.
Does that kind of lifestyle that you're talking about, this constant touring and back and forth across the country, is that depleting in terms of your songwriting? Is it difficult to write songs when you're on the road with such an intense schedule?
Yes. Because right now I'm not playing guitar. I'm talking to you.
And you should be.
Well, no, not necessarily should. That's what I'm doing. I choose to spend my time this way. So when I was making money, working a regular job, having a place to live with a girlfriend, guitar was my escape. I'd go write songs to escape that. Now I'm kind of living what I had escaped to. So you got to find something else to escape, you know. And playing my guitar is not an escape for me anymore. It's a craft, and I've seen so many people that have made me aware of how limited my ability is as a player and as a songwriter. You're just like, wow. So now I've found a new craft, a new skill, and a talent that I really didn't know that I had before. And if there's one good thing that's come from this whole, you know, hoobaloo of, you know, rock star machinery, it's that I've gotten a lot more self-confident about my writing, not just because of the reception it received, but because I can see that certain songs actually are affecting people. And I didn't get that with my last job. Nobody like came back after the fact, wrote me an email and said, "Thanks for the extra cheese." You know?
Do you feel the same way about your skills as a musician? Are they?
Yeah.
Are you becoming more confident as the years go by and as the months go by traveling?
Definitely more confident. You get a lot. You get to learn a lot more about your ability, like you said, and how far you can take it to, you know, to your own limits as a player. And, you know, like, we do get a chance to jam out as a band sometimes during sound check, and that's pretty much when we just kind of go crazy and come up with, you know, riffs or do whatever, just jam for whatever, however long until they pull the plug. And those are the times when you really get to just go free and do whatever you want to do. Sometimes when we headline, we escape in that avenue too sometimes, and it's
I think
you get to explore a
also
lot.
I think also touring has exposed us to so many more musicians and musical outlets than we would have ever known before. When I lived here in Los Angeles, I thought, well, everything is here. And it wasn't until we got to like Tulsa, Oklahoma
Lawrence,
or
Kansas.
something, and we go into this club that like was nothing, and the guys that were playing there schooled everybody that I had seen in LA. And I'm sitting here thinking, okay, this is why they tell you you have to like go and seek it out. This is why there are the myths and the legends about these road stories. And we have seen and run into some incredibly cool bands.
Yeah.
You know, huge bands and small bands, and when you break it down to just kind of a jam session, it doesn't matter. And those are kind of my favorite.
Right. That's when you're
Definitely
having the
making
most
friends
fun.
with other musicians that are doing the same thing you're doing, struggling out there, trying to beat down the doors of all the, you know, of all the clubs and play live shows every night. You feed off that energy, and it's nice to see, and you become really good friends with those people too. And you're in a creative environment pretty much all the time, so it definitely helps your playing a lot to be on the road.
Right.
And it gives you a lot to you know, aspire to play certain ways and certain things and learn new techniques or whatever.
It's easy to spot a musician from a local band that doesn't tour, that thinks he's a rock star, from a guy who's on the road year-round trying just to make the rent.
Right.
There's a different
Fill up the
there's
gas
a
tank.
different vibe. You know, you're going into like single A, double A, triple A ball at that point. When you commit to the road, you're trying to get to the majors, but you're in a league. It's just you have to establish the league, and a lot of bands, you know, do very well locally, but have trouble kind of getting out there. And we didn't want to be one of those bands. We wanted our live show to be bulletproof.
What did it take for you guys to drop your lives and commit to this band? I mean, you told me a few minutes ago that you sold everything and hit the road. I mean, a lot of people don't have that kind of commitment. What was it that pushed you guys to that edge?
Fear of regret.
21 beers and 6 hours to decide.
Yeah. We actually, when Mark and I, the guitar player and I, got out of college, we were both film students there, and we went on and worked in the industry for a couple of years. I got signed to this indie label down in San Diego with a very talented production team, and we put together Caroline Spine songs on the weekends. So I'd just drive down there, and I committed to making one project for them. A station in like upstate New York or something, a college station, got a hold of the disc, because we did a mass mailer.
Right.
Got a hold of the disc and listed one of the songs at #1. And I'm thinking, wow, this is a great sign. But it stayed at #1. And, you know, having been familiar with college radio, a lot of students come in and play whatever they want. So the fact that it was consistent let me know. You know, Yamaha Music Corporation nominated us in the top 5 unsigned bands or something, which was the first time we ever played the House of Blues here. And everything seemed to be kind of going for it. And none of us were married, none of us had kids. And we were like, if we're going to do it, we better do it now, because in 10 years, I want to have, that kind of life. And I don't want to look back going, oh, I should have really taken this risk. And, it really was more about, believing it ourselves and enjoying it so much for ourselves that it didn't really matter at first how many people showed up.
Right.
And it didn't matter, not every decision took 50 people at a label to decide. It was, we're doing a show, make a flyer, get your friends to hand it out, we're done,
Right.
And you sell a lot of discs. And it's when the suits kind of start coming and appearing and doing this kind of thing that everything kind of starts to get a little disheveled. And as long as you can remain honest, for me as the songwriter, as long as I know from my honesty in my head to the paper to the CD that's in the stores, if I haven't let it get too abused that it's something different by that point, then we're successful. Regardless of how many CDs you sell, to live this lifestyle, if you're honest from inception to the stores, you've won. You've won something there,
Right.
because it's hard to do,
Right. Did you have...
I never wanted to be one of these guys.
There you are. There you are.
Hi, I'll call you right back.
You mentioned like you guys built up your careers on your own through basically a grassroots following. Did you have reservations when you signed on to a major label? Was there anything you were worried about?
Yes.
Well, yeah, a little bit, because having done everything ourselves, having complete control over everything that happened with Caroline Spine, and giving up, a little bit of that control over to somebody else to kind of interpret, instead of having 4 guys screwing a light bulb, you have 400 or
Right.
whatever. You have a bunch more people working on the same project. So you kind of wonder if it's the right decision, because we know what we want. Is the label going to want the same things as we want? And
Has it worked out though in the long run?
Well, I think for us also, when we were looking, again, we're a live band that got signed. We sold our own discs, but we really didn't have any intention, really. I mean, we were making, when you're selling that many discs on your own, you're making a decent living.
Right.
So for me, the biggest worry I had about signing is that you get such an influx of other people, and you don't know if all of them are going to work as hard on your project as you are, and you're giving up, what's paying your rent for a smaller piece of hopefully a much bigger picture. And it's a risk, and a lot of bands that don't have their shit together, die by the wayside on
Right.
it. I don't think there's a band out there that's had a perfect experience with a label, and I think that we were very fortunate to be signed. I think regardless of who we're signed to or what's going on in the industry, Caroline Spine still has Spine fans that have been with us for 5 years. So for those Spine fans, we have a new record coming out next spring. And
Perfect.
for everybody else, on the radio and on MTV, if a video even ever gets to them, then we'll see. We're happy to be on House of Blues Online.
Perfect. Perfect. What do you think of the notion that a musician needs to suffer for their art?
It depends on who's saying it.
who's suffer for their art?
Yeah. To create.
Well,
To be creative.
a lot of times, a lot of musicians and artists in general, I guess, they live their life with a vision, sort of thing, with a specific kind of talent. They doesn't always necessarily. It's like one of the hardest ways to kind of interpret, to give to somebody else, and so they're like these tortured souls everywhere you go about it. You can't really go and get a good job with just your artistic ability. You've got to make it happen.
Right.
Nobody's going to make it happen for you, and that's tough. Having to make the decision to leave your girlfriends and leave the security of jobs and whatever behind, and you go out there and you're going to starve, and it's going to be tough. You're going to get to play your music, but it's not going to be easy.
I think for me, there is a certain frustration. I would say that writing songs is about, I heard someone say one time, it's 5% inspiration and 95% perspiration, right? For me to have somebody say, musicians and artists really need to suffer to bring the best art out of them, if living in a van for 3 years straight made me write better songs, I'll never know that. I'll never know that.
Right.
But I know that most other people I look at in my life will not have lived in a van for 3 years to achieve what they wanted to achieve. And just knowing that, that's why it kind of depends on who's doing it.
Sure.
That's why it depends on who's doing the talking. for
Very
me.
good.
Yeah.